I smoothed out my plain black dress in front of the mirror in my penthouse apartment, intentionally picking the most unremarkable outfit from my wardrobe. The standard MacBook I'd purchased just for family visits rested on my desk, its screen showing a handful of simple digital art designs. Nothing too striking, nothing that might reveal the vast empire I'd created. The invitation to the Morrison family reunion sat on my kitchen counter, its gold lettering glinting in the morning sun. Hosted as usual at my sister Diana's grand Hamptons estate, the card boasted, "Join us to celebrate family success," leaving me to wonder if they'd ever acknowledge mine. My phone vibrated with a text from my CFO. "Contracts are set, Maya Morrison. Tech's board just greenlit the sale. They don't suspect Dreamscape Animation Studios is behind it." I grinned, slipping the phone into my bag. A decade of concealing my achievements was about to culminate in the most gratifying way imaginable. The drive to the Hamptons gave me space to think back on how I'd arrived at this point. Growing up a Morrison meant one thing: business was king. My father, James Morrison, had forged Morrison Tech from scratch, transforming it into a trusted name in enterprise software. My sister Diana had mirrored his path flawlessly, Harvard MBA, climbing the company ladder. Then there was me, the letdown, the daughter who scribbled in sketchbooks instead of poring over business plans. "Art's not a future, Maya," my father would grumble, his tone thick with reproach. "It's a pastime maybe, but a waste at worst." I still recall the day I told them I'd chosen animation at art school over a spot at Wharton. The dining room went silent, heavy with judgment. "You're ruining your life," Diana had declared, while our mother dabbed her eyes with a napkin as if I'd confessed to a fatal disease. What they didn't know, what I never shared, was that I'd secretly taken night courses in business administration alongside art school. While they thought I was frittering away my time, I was laying the groundwork for something far grander than they could fathom. My first animated short won a student contest. Nothing huge, just $5,000 and some industry notice, but it was a start. I invested that cash to hire 2 fellow artists, and from my cramped apartment, we began crafting content for small companies. That's when I stumbled onto something big. Corporations were starving for quality animation, training clips, ads, product demos. There was a gaping demand for top-notch digital work, and few studios could meet it professionally. Within 2 years, my tiny crew swelled to 15. We became Dreamscape Animation Studios, registered under my middle name, Phoenix. Maya Phoenix, not Maya Morrison, the alias behind what would grow into one of the nation's most groundbreaking animation firms. Naturally, my family remained clueless. To them, I was still Maya, the floundering artist who occasionally sold a digital piece online or picked up odd freelance gigs. Whenever they probed about my work, I fed them just enough to keep up the charade. Diana's mansion loomed into sight, its pristine lawns and flawless landscaping screaming the kind of success measured in property size. Luxury cars lined the circular drive, making my intentionally understated Honda Civic stick out even more. I parked at the far end, pausing to check my reflection. I ditched my high-end wardrobe, kept my makeup light, my hair plain, every detail crafted to uphold the image they held. The struggling artist, the family flop. "Paya." My mother's voice floated across the driveway as I neared the house. "We were starting to think you wouldn't show." I returned her air kiss, catching how her gaze flicked over my outfit, likely tallying its modest worth and deeming it suitably unimpressive. "Traffic," I said, trailing her inside, "and I had to wrap up a commission." "Oh, someone's actually paying for your sketches?" The slight hesitation before sketches was faint but pointed. If she only knew I'd just finalized a $50 million deal with a tech giant for animated training programs. Instead, I gave a shy smile. "Just a small business site. Nothing special." The house was as I recalled from past reunions, lavishly adorned, a shrine to Morrison triumph. Photos adorned the walls. Diana at her Harvard commencement, Diana with the Morrison Tech board, Diana gracing Business Weekly's cover. My lone picture was from high school, predating my choice of art over commerce. The great room buzzed with relatives when we stepped in, chatter about stocks, mergers, and markets swirling around. Cousin James held forth by the fireplace, boasting about his hedge fund's latest coup. Aunt Patricia flaunted snapshots of her son's startup. And there, in the thick of it, stood Diana, radiant in what I clocked as a $12,000 Oscar de la Renta gown. "Hiya," she called, her voice tinged with that familiar patronizing lilt. "So glad you could step away from your art to join us." She hugged me lightly, mindful not to crease her dress. "You look," she paused, fishing for a tactful term, "cozy." "Thanks," I replied, tugging at my target dress, playing the role she anticipated. "Your gown's stunning. Oscar de la Renta?" She nodded, smoothing the fabric. "A little treat for sealing our latest deal. Morrison Tech just acquired our top rival in enterprise software." I swallowed a smirk. If she only knew that in under a day Morrison Tech would be mine, swallowed by my little art studio. "That's amazing," I said. "Things must be thriving." "Better than ever," she glowed. "In fact, I was just telling everyone about our next step, expanding into digital content like animations for training and marketing." My pulse quickened. This was precisely why I'd moved to buy Morrison Tech. They were edging into my domain, poised to rival me. Instead, they'd soon be mine, though Diana didn't know it yet. "Animation?" I asked, feigning innocence. "That sounds tricky." She laughed, the sound cutting through the room. "Oh Maya, it's all strategy. The drawing's just grunt work. We hire people for that." She waved vaguely toward me. "You know, people like, well, you know." Other relatives drifted over, drawn by her laughter. "Still doodling cartoons, Maya?" James asked, his smirk unmasked. "My fund's always hiring admin help if you want a proper job." "Thanks," I murmured, "but I'm managing with my art." "Managing?" Diana arched a brow. "Is that why you're still in that beat-up Honda and that cramped apartment?" They had no clue I owned the building housing my cramped place, or that my garage held a Porsche and 2 Teslas. The Honda was just for show. "I scrape by," I shrugged. "Not everyone needs a mansion." "Scraping by isn't succeeding," my father's voice rumbled behind me. I turned to see him eyeing me with that old, weary disapproval. "Diana's latest deal dwarfs anything you'll ever earn sketching." Anger flared, but I tamped it down. In less than a day they'd see how wrong they were. The contracts were locked, the press release drafted. By tomorrow, Maya Phoenix would emerge as Dreamscape's CEO and Morrison Tech's new owner. For now, I smiled and excused myself for a drink. Let them savor their smugness a little longer. Revenge, after all, is its own craft. The reunion stretched into the evening, each hour offering fresh chances for relatives to jab at my supposed shortcomings. I kept glancing at my phone, watching my team confirm tomorrow's reveal. Press release cleared, New York Times exclusive locked, board transition papers set. I stood by the towering windows, gazing at the sunset over Diana's impeccable garden, when my father approached, clutching his favorite scotch, the same I kept stocked in my office unbeknownst to him. "Hiya," he said, his tone laced with perpetual dismay. "Your mother and I have been talking." I braced myself. These talks never ended well. "Diana's new digital content unit will need artists," he went on. "Basic stuff, nothing fancy but steady, benefits, a real paycheck." He stressed real, as if my work were imaginary. "She's willing to give you a shot despite your lack of business know-how." I sipped my champagne to mask a grin. If he knew my company's yearly earnings tripled Morrison Tech's digital haul. "Thanks, Dad, but I'm fine freelancing." He sighed. "Maya, you're 32. Isn't it time to stop messing around with drawings and join reality? Look at your sister, she's built something." Through the window's reflection, I saw Diana regaling relatives, likely spinning another tale of her brilliance. "I know you think art's just fooling around," I said measuredly, "but it's more than you think." "Is it?" He gestured at my plain dress, my low-key look. Because all I see is squandered potential. You could have gone to Wharton, been part of Morrison Tech's legacy. Instead you tossed it for what? Digital scribbles. The words stung even now, even with what I knew. Actually, I began nearly spilling it all, but my phone buzzed. My COO, Morrison Tech board confirmed for 9 a.m. They're clueless what's coming. I swallowed my truth. Less than 12 hours I could hold out. Actually what? My father pressed. Nothing, I said. You're right, I made my choices. He shook his head and walked off, leaving me with the fading sunlight. Across the room Diana's laugh rang out. Maya's always been unique, she was telling Aunt Patricia. Some just aren't built for real success. At least she's finally taking our help. I checked my watch. 7:30 p.m. In under 14 hours, everything would shift. The night blurred with more subtle digs and pitying offers. James proposing to teach me accounting, Aunt Patricia suggesting her daughter revamp my art site, my mother showing me graphic design job ads. I kept up my quiet, resigned act, the struggling artist they expected, while inwardly counting down. At last, as the party wound down, Diana cornered me by the coat check. I hope you'll think about Dad's offer, she said, her tone dripping with faux concern. It's nothing tough, just basic art for presentations handbooks. Entry-level pay, but better than whatever you're scraping by on. I pictured my penthouse office, my 200-strong team, the game-changing project we were crafting. I'll consider it, I said. Don't wait too long, she warned. Once we launch our digital expansion next week, we'll have tons of qualified applicants. I'm only offering because you're family. I nodded, taking my coat. Speaking of announcements, will you be at the office tomorrow? Of course, she said, beaming. 9 a.m. sharp. Big meeting with our mystery buyers. Some animation studio wants to partner. She smirked. See what happens when you aim beyond doodling? Good luck, I said, turning to go. Maya, she called, that outfit, if you take the job you'll need to dress sharper. Looks matter in business. I glanced at my modest dress, thinking of my designer-filled closet. I'll remember that. Driving home I let the weight of what was coming sink in. 10 years of hiding, letting them see me as a failure, all for this. Back in my penthouse, I shed my struggling artist guise, slipping into silk pajamas pricier than Diana's gown. My real laptop, not the family visit prop, sat open, showing Morrison Tech's final acquisition papers. My assistant messaged, all set for tomorrow. Car at 8:30 a.m. Morrison Tech board doesn't know you're coming. I poured a glass of my father's scotch and stepped onto my terrace, city lights twinkling below. Somewhere, Diana was likely gloating to her husband about rescuing her artist sister. My private line rang. Marcus, Mycio. Maya, you ready? Once we announce, it's a new world. Your family will see the truth. Sure you want it this way? We could send someone else, keep you hidden longer. I thought of their disdain, the years of being lesser for choosing art. No, I said. I want to be there. I want to see their faces when they realize who I am. After hanging up, I lingered on the terrace, tracing my path, every slight, every help, every time I'd held my tongue. Tomorrow they'd see the failure had outbuilt them all. Tomorrow success would wear my face. I raised my glass to the city. The art of deception was about to unveil its masterpiece. The Morrison Tech boardroom hadn't changed since my childhood visits. Mahogany, leather, old wealth, older pride. I stood in the private elevator, clad in a custom Chanel suit worth more than 6 months of Diana's entry-level offer. Ready, Miss Phoenix? Marcus asked. He'd been with me since Dreamscape was just 3 of us in my apartment. I checked my reflection. Gone was the meek artist. Today I was every bit the CEO. Ready, I said as the doors slid open. Diana was mid-speech in the boardroom, gesturing to the board, my father at the head, regal in his tailored suit. Neither saw me at first, too caught up in their future. A future I was about to rewrite. The Dreamscape reps should be here soon, Diana was saying. Once we seal this, Morrison Tech will own digital content. Actually, I said, stepping in, there's been a tweak to the plan. Silence crashed over the room. Diana's jaw dropped, her polish cracking. Why? My father stood baffled. What are you doing here? This is private. I smiled, setting my briefcase down. I know exactly what this is. I scheduled it. This is absurd, Diana snapped, regaining her voice. Security won't be needed, Marcus cut in. Miss Phoenix belongs here. Phoenix. Diana's eyes narrowed. Her name's Morrison. Actually, I said, opening my case and passing out papers, Maya Phoenix is my professional name. The one I used to build Dreamscape animation studios from nothing, the one you'll all soon know well. My father's face paled as he scanned the documents. Acquisition forms, sale contracts, press releases. This can't be, he muttered. Can't it? I took the table's far end. Let me tell you about a girl who loved art and business, who took night classes while at art school, who saw a gap for quality corporate animation and built a company now pulling over $200 million a year. Diana's hands trembled as she flipped through pages. You're Maya Phoenix? Dreamscape CEO? The very same, I said. Mine since I started it a decade ago, when you all thought I was wasting my life. But you're just an artist, she faltered. That tiny apartment, that Honda, I laughed. I own that building. The Honda's for family visits. Would you rather I rolled up in my Porsche, giving you more to misjudge? My father stared at Dreamscape's valuation. All this time, every gathering where you mocked me, I said, every pitying help, every nod to Diana's real success, I was building something bigger than Morrison Tech could dream. Why? Diana demanded. Why hide it? Because you'd never have let it be mine, I shot back. You'd have folded it into Morrison Tech, turned my vision into your cog. I had to do it my way. I stood, smoothing my suit. As of 9 a.m., Dreamscape owns Morrison Tech. We'll reshape it. Innovation over tradition. Diana, your CEO role's gone, but you can apply for creative. Father, you'll advise until retirement next month. The room went still, even the board, usually my father's yes men, stunned. You can't, Diana whispered. I can and I have, I said. The board approved the sale last week, blind to me as the buyer. Contracts are done. Press goes live in. I checked my watch. 10 minutes. My phone buzzed. The New York Times piece was out. Art meets tech. Dreamscape acquires Morrison Tech. CEO Maya Phoenix unveils digital vision. I showed them the headline. Oh, and Diana, that entry-level job? I'll pass. I'm overqualified. The next hour blurred. Legal wrap-ups. Dazed board members signing off. My father mute at a table no longer his. As they left, Diana spoke, voice hollow. All these years, you let us think you were failing. No, I corrected. You chose to see failure. You never imagined I could be more. My father rose, looking ancient. Maya, save it, I said, not harshly. This wasn't revenge. It's business. Dreamscape needs Morrison Tech's framework. Morrison Tech needs us to survive. Family dinner tonight at Lou Bernardine to announce the merger. Be there. They nodded wordlessly. Oh, and Diana, I paused at the door, dressed sharp. Looks matter in business. The ride back was quiet. Marcus let me process. In my penthouse office, he asked, Feel good? Gazing at the city, I said, It feels right, like finishing a decade-long painting. My phone buzzed with relatives' messages, just catching the news, realizing the failure was a top suit. James pitched synergies. Aunt Patricia called nonstop. My mother texted, Why didn't you tell us? I left them for dinner. Instead, I drafted tomorrow's speech for Morrison Tech staff. Jobs safe if they embraced creativity. Diana texted, I need to understand. Can we talk before dinner? I replied, "Come to my real office, Phoenix Building, 5th Avenue, top floor. Security's expecting you." An hour later she stood in my office, uneasy, eyeing the art, the Central Park view, the success she'd missed. "Why?" she asked. "Why hide it? Why buy Morrison tech? Why let us think you failed?" "Because you and Dad wouldn't accept my way," I said, motioning her to sit. "You'd have boxed it into your world. Boardrooms, reports. Dreamscape thrived because it's different." "We're family," she argued. "We could have helped. Like yesterday's pity job?" I raised a brow. "That's not help, it's control." She flushed. "I never suspected. Because you didn't look. You saw the flaky artist, not art and business together." She stared at the city. "What now?" "Morrison Tech joins Dreamscape," I said. "We build anew. If you'll adapt, there's a spot. Not CEO though." She nodded, realization settling. "You're not just my little sister anymore." "I never was," I said. "You just didn't see me." That night at Le Bernardin, addressing the family, I saw respect in their eyes. Real, not pity. To new starts, I toasted, and the art of success. Later, in my penthouse, I flipped through my old sketchbook, early dreamscape ideas, ending with a quote: "The greatest art is hiding mastery until the perfect reveal." I smiled, closing it. My masterpiece was done.